Welcome. This service is for you entered 1. There are 20 participants in the conference. Muted.
Pretty fucking interesting.
The recording has started.
Okay.
All right, there we go. So the call is set up. I've got a very light responsibility today. I'm here as always, and for the guest on the call, my name is Bob Dorsey. I'm with Nexel. So we alluded to our special guest. Today we're going to listen to Dr. Larry McCleary. And from what I understand, I have not met the good doctor yet, but I'm going to be introduced to him today at the same time you all are. But I know what he's accomplished. And rather than stealing Janet's thunder, I'm going to defer to her to introduce
Hello,
the doctor.
This is Larry.
There he is. Hello, doctor.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's great to have you. Great to have you on the call. Janet, are you with us?
Absolutely, I am, Bob.
There you are. Well, I was handing the ball over to you to introduce the good doctor. You can do it better than I can, so why don't you do it? We'll listen to the call.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bob. I so appreciate it. So we are absolutely excited and really thrilled to have Dr. Larry McCleary, who is an MD. This gentleman has done so many things. He is the principal that has designed the products that we're going to be hearing about today. He's a highly respected neurosurgeon, an author, a researcher. Dr. Larry McCleary served in a senior role at the Pediatric Neurology Center at the Denver Children's Hospital and spent well over a decade in academic medicine prior to starting his mission to pursue the development of nutritional interventions for major human health issues. This gentleman has done more than I could even talk about. He has authored 3 beautiful books. We've heard about Bald is Beautiful. We've heard about some of these books that he has written, and he has developed the formulas that actually go along with what he found was necessary. So with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who he is as a person. He's genuine. He's authentic. He's kind. And more than that, this man has the ability to have knowledge that is unbelievable. His knowledge is so far surpassed over anyone else. His clinical trials have been in peer-reviewed medical journals. He's just a man that has experienced everything that he possibly could to give us the biggest assets we could possibly have. So with that, what I'd like to do is, Larry, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, I really appreciate everyone on the call for being on a call on your weekend, your time off, your time to be with family and so forth, to be on this call. That means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to Janet as well. So thank you for taking your time to be on the call, and we hope to make it worthwhile for you. And one hat tip to Janet. Janet, after that introduction, I'd like to introduce you to my mom so that you can repeat what you just said. That is very kind. So just a couple of words about myself. So as Janet said, I am a clinical physician, meaning I treated patients, and I was at the Children's Hospital in Denver, and I did brain surgery in kids. So I'm a neurosurgeon. I did brain surgery in kids for all reasons, trauma, congenital problems, tumors, and so forth. And I did that for a number of years. And so you might ask, why is this guy talking with Janet and Steve and everyone at Nexcel? Well, it's because toward the end of my brain surgery career, I got to know, obviously, a number of physicians at Denver Children's Hospital, and one of them was the chairman in the neurotrauma rehab division. His name was Dennis, and he and I knew each other well, and we're always looking for things to improve the rate of recovery of the kids we took care of and how fully recovered they became at the end of the process. And toward the end of my tenure there, we both got interested in nutrition and nutritional support for the brain. And we were looking initially at things that you could give intravenously because many of the kids were so sick they couldn't eat, they couldn't swallow, they couldn't digest. So we started intravenously many years ago with what we call medium chain triglycerides. And some of you might know what those are, but they're a kind of a short, fatty compound. But when you give those, you can give them intravenously, and they get metabolized in the liver and turned into high-energy foods for the brain, which is exactly what we wanted in this group of kids. And so we started using those, and we and the nurses and the kids' parents noted a dramatic improvement in their recoveries. And so that really was kind of an epiphany for us, and that got our foot in the door. And then after that, we started looking at other nutrients such as vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and neurotransmitter support for these kids. And as the parents watched the kids recover, they said, wow, if this works for their brains, would it help us? And that kind of prompted me to getting into the nutritional supplement formulation arena. So I produced a product that was the precursor of Lucidol that the parents could take. So that's kind of my background and how I got into nutritional medicine and why I'm a believer, and I think why there's a good synergy and overlap between my interests and Nexcel. So Janet, maybe you could kind of take the ball from there.
Okay, well, you are just so amazing. You found a need and you filled it. But as much as you did in relationship to finding that need and filling it, you also authored some books that have talked specifically in a form that we can all understand. Would you like to talk to us a little bit about the books that you've written?
Well, sure. So I've written, when I started writing, and these are mostly books for the lay public. So my first book was the Brain Trust Program, which was several pillars of brain health, what a healthy brain looks like, and how to keep your brain happy and healthy. Another book that I wrote which was kind of a follow-on to that book is Feed Your Brain, Lose Your Belly. Now that you might think is kind of an odd combination. Feed your brain, lose your belly. But basically the essence of that book is if you nourish your brain, if you give the brain the nutrients it needs, it won't be on the lookout for more nutrients, meaning if you feed the brain the right foods, it doesn't get hungry because it doesn't need more. And it was kind of a natural approach to weight loss. So that was kind of a different spin on brain nutrition. And then as I expanded beyond the brain niche, I wrote a book called The Fracture Cure, which really is kind of the basis, the physiologic basis for our approach to bone health, which is the basis for the Bonexid supplement. And then Janet mentioned another set of books called Bald is Beautiful, and I volunteer as the medical director for the Shining Stars Foundation, which is a nonprofit in Colorado that puts on programs for kids with cancer. and we interviewed about 100 children with cancer and their families to put together that set of books for living with childhood cancer. So kids with cancer are a big part of my life. I operated on a number of the kids, loved the families, and that really was the entree to write those books. So that's kind of a snippet about the writing that I've done.
Beautiful. And, you have done so many amazing things. And one of the things you've done is you've created 3 incredible products, one for the brain, one for the bone, and one for the sleep. And you've talked a little bit about the brain and what we actually need. Could you tell us a little bit about each one of those products and why you feel that they are so beneficial?
Sure, thanks. So let's talk a little bit about the brain product, and the brain product is Lucidol. And before we jump into Lucidol, I'd just like to mention something that's been all over the news of late, the last 6 to 12 months, and that is that there seems to be a developing link or nexus between people who use sleeping pills and the development of Alzheimer's disease. And that's an intriguing connection. And I think it's worth talking a little bit about that. And one of the examples that the researchers have looked at is, especially in older people, doctors don't want to prescribe strong knockout medicines, so they'll use something like Benadryl. And Benadryl is kind of an allergy medicine if you get a stuffy nose. And yet, if people who take Benadryl, even infrequently but over a protracted period of time, have a higher incidence of developing Alzheimer's disease. Now, why would that be true? Well, one of the side effects of Benadryl is that it decreases levels in the body and in the brain of a compound called acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is the memory neurotransmitter, okay? And obviously, if you decrease levels of the memory neurotransmitter, your memory's not going to work as well. And that really is the basis for this link between sleeping medicines and the development of Alzheimer's disease. And it's not just true about these allergy medicines. There are some medicines that you take if you have diarrhea, or if you have bladder spasms, or if you have urinary incontinence. All of these decrease levels of the memory neurotransmitter in the brain. And that's the link between these medicines and the development of Alzheimer's disease. So with that as a background, if you look at our brain product, what impact does our brain product have on acetylcholine levels, the memory neurotransmitter? Well, we have a number of nutrients in the product that enhance or increase acetylcholine levels. So that product, one of the main things it does is to increase memory neurotransmitter levels. And we tested actually in a clinical trial what impact that had on memory, and we found that it improved memory, which was no surprise because that's how we built that product. So in a way, our Lucidol product is the solution for this huge drug-induced increase in Alzheimer's disease. So that's kind of one of the central pillars of our brain product called Lucidol. But how can you think about that, as a person who is going to be talking to other people about brain health? Well, the brain is a unique organ, okay? And in addition to remembering things, and it needs nutrients to help with that, it's the organ that burns up the most energy in the body, about 25% of the energy. So some of the other things that we folded into the Lucidol formulation are nutrients to allow the brain to make more energy, which are, for example, B vitamins. But we also have to understand that there are little organelles within brain cells that generate this energy. And so a number of the ingredients in Lucidol improve mitochondrial function, which are the energy powerhouses of nerve cells. And we also have nutrients that are called antioxidants. And why do we put those in? Well, the brain is made of delicate fats. And many of the fats are like fats in cold water fish, like salmon, for example. And we all know what happens when we leave salmon out on the counter. It kind of starts smelling funny. And that occurs because the delicate fats oxidize or go rancid. And if you take a piece of fish and you squeeze a little lemon juice on it, it won't go rancid because of the antioxidants in the lemon juice. So we use that same approach to add a large number of antioxidants in Lucidol. There are probably 20 antioxidants. And why did we put so many? Well, we put many in because the antioxidants have to get into different parts of the nerve cell, into the cell membrane, into the fluid space inside the nerve cell, into the neurotransmitter release packages. So all of these little niches are different, and different antioxidants have the ability to sneak into all of those nooks and crannies. So it's really, we use this holistic approach to develop Lucidol, and that was kind of the science behind it. But how do you know that a product's going to work? Well, as a doctor, you always have to, if you make a recommendation, you have to be able to say, and this is why I think you should do this. So the motivation for that part is we did a clinical trial and gave all of the volunteers, we split them into two groups. One group took Lucidol, one group took an inactive product called a placebo, and we tested various brain functions after they'd been on the product for a couple of months. And the main things that everybody is interested in, because life comes at you fast, is can we stay awake, alert, and focus and think clearly? So we measured those traits, and people on Lucidol were more alert, they could focus better, and they could even think faster. We tested how fast people thought. They could think faster on Lucidol, and we measured learning, because that's what we're all about. I mean, to live in today's society, it's an information society. So taking information, processing it, and coming up with novel solutions is learning. And when we tested learning with Lucidol, it was improved. And just for chuckles, we measured anxiety and depression scales, and Lucidol improved those. So really, this theory about how we formulated it was translated into a number of benefits in brain function that happen to be the benefits that we all want to live better lives. So that's pretty much the brain product. Janet, do you have any comments, questions about that?
No, I think that was really incredible. And I really believe what you said is people are looking for every one of those areas that you just spoke about. And, what I'd really like you to share about Lenexide, because of what you experienced with your children with the chemotherapy. I think it's just absolutely incredible. So if you could share a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, being a pediatric neurosurgeon, bones weren't something that I did a lot of thinking about, but I took care of a lot of kids with cancer. They're on chemotherapy, and chemotherapy, I mean, you even see articles. There was one that came out yesterday. Chemotherapy is toxic for bones. And there's a little girl coming to our Aspen ski camp with cancer, and she had to have both hips replaced because of degeneration of the femur bone that goes from the hip down to the knee. So it became obvious to me that even in kids, bone health's a big deal. When else is it a big deal? Well, I mean, what we've all read about is postmenopausal females. Women, once they stop having periods, estrogen levels fall, and that's when bone health is really important. I mean, women in the first decade after menopause can lose 10 or 15% of their bone mass, which is huge because even though that doesn't sound like a lot, that produces a doubling of fracture rates in that group of women. And why is that the case? It's the case because estrogen is kind of like the hormone that is glue that holds calcium in bone, okay? What else causes calcium to leave? Well, our diet. I mean, we're talking about nutrition and diet. We eat a diet that generates acid in the body every day, okay? And acid in the body is something not well tolerated. So how do we buffer or neutralize that? Well, bone wears many hats. It allows us to walk. It has bone marrow that produces blood cells, but it also is made with calcium and alkaline or buffering nutrients. When we eat acid, those buffers come out of bone to keep the acid level normal in the body. But what else happens when those buffers come out of bone? Calcium comes out with them, and then we pee that out in the urine. So loss of estrogen and diet and acidic diet cause a tremendous amount of bone loss in humans, especially in the older population. And it happens in men and women. And where does Bonexid come in? Well, Bonexid I like to refer to as the no calcium calcium cure. The no calcium calcium cure. So Bonexid has no calcium in it. And you might think, wow, what kind of an idiot is that to develop a bone product with no calcium? Well, Bonexid has many of the benefits of estrogen or a better diet because we provide the buffers in Bonexid that would otherwise have to come out of bone. And why is that important? If we provide the buffers, we can neutralize the acid diet without bone dissolving. And that really is the essence of how Bonexid works and why it's so good for bone health. And as an example, in the clinical trial we did, Bonexid slowed down calcium loss from bone by 77 milligrams a day. And this is in postmenopausal women, which is the most difficult population to treat. And that doesn't sound like a lot. But if you look at a postmenopausal woman for 20 years, from age 50 to 70, she will lose about half the calcium in her skeleton. And if we could save 77 milligrams a day in that woman, it would save half the calcium or preserve half the calcium in that woman's skeleton over the same period of time. So you don't need calcium to have healthy bones. And that is essentially the miracle of Bonexid and why it works so well. And again, when we tested that in a clinical trial, not only did it markedly decrease calcium loss from bone, but it actually, we tested markers that looked at bone formation and bone breakdown. And bone formation was increased, bone breakdown was decreased. And both of those really determine how much bone you have. And the other amazing thing was this was only a 6-week study. People think bone takes years to change. In 6 weeks, we produced those changes with our no calcium calcium cure. So that really is kind of the story behind Bonexid.
Well, that's incredible. And I think, the most important aspect, and I hope people really heard this, is that you did the studies and you got to see the results. And I think that is truly what's going on. We've got so many baby boomers today that are having problems with, hip replacements and knee replacements and all of these issues. You're seeing, osteoporosis. All of these things happen. And I believe this product will help with all of those areas.
Well, and what's interesting is we did this clinical trial on Bonexid, and it was a 6-week trial. And there weren't many criticisms of it, but one criticism, which I think is legitimate, is, well, it was only a 6-week trial. Well, the benefit is if you can see dramatic changes in bone health in 6 weeks, this product's doing something. But the criticism was, well, how do you know it's going to work for 2, 3, 4 years? Well, we went into the medical literature, and there's a group out of the University of California at San Francisco that took one ingredient in Bonexid, and they used it, at a higher level than we used, but we used other safer nutrients, so we didn't need as much of it. They gave postmenopausal women that supplement for 3 years. 3 years, not just 6 weeks. So they wanted to test, would this benefit persist over time? And they found that the first 3 months, they compared the first 3 months to the last 3 months, meaning after 3 years, and the benefits were identical. So it's not something your body gets accustomed to and it stops working. So, and it's safe. Both of these are safe products. So they are designed to help remedy chronic issues that really impact people's lives. And I think we all know people who have memory issues, and that makes them not the person they were, and people with bone issues, especially a person who's fractured a hip. 20% of the people with a hip fracture die, believe it or not. So these are major problems. And like for Bonexid, loss of estrogen is a major contributor. So we have a nutritional solution that addresses a hormonal problem without using hormones. So that's how powerful nutrition can be.
Well, that was incredible. I really appreciate that. And the aspect about, the hip fractures and 20% of the people actually passing is really a huge statement. So with that, I would love for you to talk to us just a tiny bit about the other side, the Serenitine.
Okay, sure. So why would a neurosurgeon be interested in a sleep product? It sounds like, the other side of the world. Well, from my perspective, I'm focused on brain function and brain physiology, how the brain works, why it works the way it works, and how we can keep it working as well as we can. And sleep is the most important way for the brain to reset and refresh itself so it functions normally the next day. We can live without rest, but we can't live without sleep. And so sleep and brain function for me are both important because they're intimately interrelated. We all know what it's like if we don't get a good night's sleep, because we wake up or we toss and turn, we get up the next morning and we're not very productive at work, we're crabby, we're short-tempered, and we don't really get much done and we're not happy about it. So that's what lack of sleep does to the brain. And there have been some studies that show if you go 48 hours without sleep and you assess brain function without sleep for a couple of days is the same as you would expect if you had several cocktails. So it really knocks down brain function. It's almost like, for me, if I don't get a lot of sleep, over a couple of days, it's like thinking through wax paper. Everything's kind of cloudy or foggy. So that really is why I'm interested in sleep, okay? What about our approach? What about our Serenitine Next Cell approach to sleep? Well, if you look at what is in the marketplace, most products that get people to sleep can be characterized as knockout drops, okay? It used to be barbiturates. Then it was tranquilizers, and now it's things like Ambien and so forth, they will get you to sleep, but they get you to sleep because they sedate you, they knock you out. And while that will get you to sleep, it's not the best way to refresh your brain, because for two reasons. Number one, I think we've all been through that party where we've had an extra glass of wine and we go to bed and we conk out fast, but we wake up 2 hours later, can't get back to sleep, toss and turn, and wake up kind of tired, brain dead, and not refreshed the next day. And why is that? That's because while alcohol and these sedative products can help get you to sleep, they don't really allow your body to naturally get into the refreshing, normal, hardwired brain sleep cycles that the brain requires to reorganize and refresh itself. Okay? So that's one of the major problems with them. The second is, for any sedative, your body acclimates to it, and whenever the body acclimates to something, that's when dependency issues arise. And what I mean by dependency issues are addictions. People can get addicted to these sleeping products because the brain gets used to having them on board, and they stop working, so you need to take more, and that's how an addiction arises. So here's our approach to sleep. We wanted to develop a sleep product that was not a knockout drop, that was not a sedative, and therefore didn't come with all of the side effects of dependency issues, which sleeping pills and any sedatives have. And that's why they tell doctors, don't give more than a 2-week supply. So our approach to sleep is a non-sedative approach to sleep to avoid these toxicity and dependency issues. Now, why would that ever work? Well, if you look at modern society, we're asking our brains to do 10 times as much in 1/10 the time. So it's really stressful for the brain. And stress in the brain produces anxiety, and it produces a state of hyperarousal of the brain. So if you talk to people with insomnia problems, they go to bed and their mind is racing. And when your mind is racing, it can't drop down into the normal sleep cycles. So our approach is to decrease the brain's response to stress so we can relax, chill before bedtime, and then fall into the restorative sleep cycles that we know that work, that get us refreshed and ready for the next day. So the ingredients in our product, Serenitine, are non-sedating, but they relax the brain and let it go into natural sleep cycles. Okay? And how do we know that? Well, we tested it in people, but if you look at the ingredients, some of the ingredients I'll go over. One of them is theanine. And if you look at most sleep concoctions, they have 50 milligrams or 100 milligrams. Well, we put 200 milligrams of theanine in. And at that level, if you put people in an EEG, meaning a brainwave study, theanine on its own increases alpha waves, which is a very relaxed brain state. Okay, so it clearly relaxes the brain, and it also decreases beta waves, which are another type of brain wave. And those beta waves are associated with a hyperaroused, stressed brain. So it decreases the hyperaroused state, letting the brain drop into a natural sleep state. And when theanine's used alone, many people who have insomnia wake up refreshed. But that's just one of the ingredients, but it shows the mechanism of action of our product is totally different than anything else on the market. We also have melatonin. Why did we put that in? I think we've all heard about that. that's kind of a minor component in our sleep preparation, but it's important to mention because as we get older, melatonin levels in our brain naturally fall. And that's the driver for us to fall into these natural sleep cycles. So some people will put 10 milligrams of melatonin in a product. That's a pharmaceutical dose. We just wanted to replace the melatonin levels, make them back to normal rather than leave them slightly low. So that's why we added melatonin. We also have magnesium, which is a natural brain relaxer, and it's a mineral that 50% of the American population is deficient in. And then the last two ingredients really get to the core of the matter with NextCell, and that is we put cannabicore in. Cannabicore is a combination of hemp extract with CBD and a compound called beta-caryophyllene. And beta-caryophyllene, if you haven't heard that name, you're going to be hearing a lot more about it because it's generally recognized as safe by the government. And it's also a powerful agent that turns on the cannabinoid system. And it turns on the side of the cannabinoids that CBD doesn't touch. It turns on the CB2 receptor, whereas cannabidiol reacts with the CB1 receptor. So these work as a powerful dynamic duo. And they've been shown to decrease anxiety, to decrease excessive arousal, and to decrease the brain's reaction to stress. And together, they also decrease pain. And pain and anxiety are really the two main reasons why people can't get to sleep and stay asleep. So that's really the Serenitine story. It's a totally new approach to sleep. It's non-addictive, and it allows the body to access and get into its natural restorative sleep cycles. So that's why we're really excited about this product. And when we gave it to, there were about 30 people in a focus group, I thought, when I looked at these people's sleep histories, I thought, wow, if we have 4 or 5 out of 30 who respond to this, I would consider that a home run. But I think 29 people said that it produced a major impact on their sleep quality and how they felt the next day. And what was interesting is a number of the stories that the people told involved responses from their coworkers. They said, wow, Joe, you're a totally different guy today. You're not the sourpuss you usually are. And by the way, you're getting a lot of work done. What are you doing that's different? And I heard that over and over and over again. So, I mean, if sleep is to make you wake up refreshed and productive, this worked big time. So that really is how we put Serenitine together, why we felt we needed a novel new approach, and feedback from people who took it and their coworkers. Janet?
Well, you just jumped right into where I really want to go. Your products have absolutely been phenomenal. You've done amazing things, the research, the studies. But with the addition of the cannabicore, I think what that has done has jumped the efficacy of the product from where it was originally to something that is just outstanding and is the biggest differentiator in everything out there related to a whole food nutritional supplement. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think if you look at, for example, the marijuana plant, and we're not in the getting high business, but the marijuana plant has a couple of hundred nutrients in it that are cannabinoids and terpenes and related compounds. And our extraction process pulls out a spectrum of nutrients from the plant that reflect those nutrients which are existing naturally in the plant. Now, why is that important? Well, I mean, humans have been eating, smoking, chewing or ingesting these compounds for tens of thousands of years, and the body hasn't been exposed to high doses of one of those nutrients, because when you eat the plant, you get the full spectrum. And so the way our DNA and our bodies and our nutritional and metabolic systems respond to these is they respond to the universe of nutrients that they get from the plant. And we wanted to maintain that. So we have extracted these in a truly water-soluble and therefore bioavailable way, so they work together as a unit, as a complete profile. And if you read about this on the internet, that means that's referring to the entourage effect. And the entourage means all of the nutrients together acting. And to really kind of test that, we said, well, we know CBD is in the hemp plant or the marijuana plant. So we took our extract and we divided it into two beakers. And one of the beakers we added CBD to. So it had hemp extract that had normal CBD, and then we increased the CBD in one of the beakers and tested it in people. And the normal hemp profile, most people responded better to that than they did to the hemp profile with added CBD. And that just shows that Mother Nature's smart and knows what to put in. So we used this full spectrum hemp, but the one thing that it was missing was a balance of CB1 and CB2 activity. Those are the two major cannabinoids that really drive the cannabinoid system in our body. There are CB1 receptors and CB2. And so we wanted to create a super entourage effect. We wanted to balance CB1 and CB2. So we added beta-caryophyllene, which is a terpene and a cannabinoid. And so Cannabicor is our full profile hemp extract, which is water soluble, or we can make it lipid soluble, but it's the full spectrum plus CB2 to balance, or plus beta-caryophyllene to balance CB1 and CB2 activity. So we are incredibly excited about Cannabicor, which is trademarked, and we're going to be using that in many of our products. And no one else has stumbled onto this. I mean, it's unbelievable. You go into a medical marijuana dispensary store and you say, can I buy some beta-caryophyllene? And they look at you like you have four eyes. They don't know about it. And if they don't know about it, no one knows about it. But yet you will have it in most or all of your products. So we're incredibly excited about that.
Well, you are an amazing man, and I so appreciate what you've shared. Now, I know these are just 3 of the 7 products that we are going to bring out, but because of our time frame today, and we've taken 45 minutes of these lovely people's time on a Saturday morning, I'm wondering if it would be possible to bring you back another day to explain the other 4 products in addition.
Sure, that would be, I would be thrilled to do that. Obviously, I am incredibly excited about this opportunity, and I respect what you all are doing. And we look, I mean, not just me, but all the people in our organization are absolutely beside ourselves to be working with a quality outfit like Nexel. So anything we can do to move that relationship north, I would love to do.
Beautiful. Well, I just can't thank you enough for your time this morning, your knowledge, and just sharing your stories as to why you've become the man that you are. And you are so special. And I feel absolutely, truly blessed to have had the opportunity in Austin with you. So I thank you for this morning. I'm going to turn this call back over to Bob, but I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Janet, thank you.
Well, thank you, Janet. I am rarely at a loss for words, most of you who know me, but to say that that was an interesting presentation, Dr. Larry, would be trite. I'm feeling honestly inspired with the information that you shared today. And to tie that all together, I want to say that it must be incumbent upon all of us in this organization to take this out to the world. Speaking about the world, Dr. Larry, you are indeed a blessing. And for us to sit on this information without sharing it would be so selfish. So I'm looking forward to the relationship. Everybody's got to be a product of the product. Let's get those pre-orders in here. We've got to figure out what it's doing for us so we can tell our own story. Doctor, I can't wait to hear your next session. That was just such a fantastic blessing for the day. So it's Saturday. Everybody's got their life to lead. Go out there and enjoy it. Don't forget to be on our call Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to unpack some more of this information. We've got to keep this alive. We're sitting on a solution to so many things. The financial benefits are going to come as a result of our influence. Let's go out there and start talking to people. Everybody have a good day. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.